All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Tipple's Wine of the Week virtual wine tasting with Elizabeth and Jeff Vaudrey from Tipple's Brews and Wine in beautiful Gainesville, Florida. Still dry for the moment, right? Hurricane coming.
I think it's for about 12 more hours, and then we're supposed to get like 30 hours of rain. So
That should be fun. So we shall see. All right. So this week we're going to be drinking. If you'll pull up the first slide for me, please.
sure.
The No Limit All-In Syrah.
All right.
Ratings, not so much a thing. Only 200 cases produced.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Right. Tiny of them.
It's tiny.
But one that I have not had in years
Mhm.
until the new vintage. I thought it was gone forever because it's such small production.
Okay.
And the one I had before was, before COVID. So it was in fact about 3 years ago. And I didn't think it was coming back. It wasn't listed in any of the inventories. I happened to have a discussion with the distributors rep that I talked to, and I mentioned how much I love this wine.
Mhm.
Excuse me. And he said, "Oh, we have it." And I said, "Well, how would I know?
Right.
It's not listed." Anyway,
You just have to ask. It's like the McDonald's secret menu.
that's right.
Mhm.
That's where they keep like all the Angus beef steak and such. Anyway, all right. So if you've not already done so, wait, well, we'll talk about food pairings and such. But
Okay.
go ahead. Food pairings for this guy: venison, standing rib roast, blue cheese, smoky eggplant, and olive dip, which sounds really, really good.
Yes, it does.
If you have not already done so, go ahead, please stop sharing.
Okay.
It's time to pour yourself a glass. Just go ahead and give me a little more.
Thank you.
I put my red wines in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes before I open them. Sometimes after I open them, to let them open up and chill down to cellar temperature at the same time. That gets it down to around 60 degrees. Swallowed funny. Sorry. Oh, wow. So, as you breathe it in, take a sip. Have a little tear in my eye from the cough.
You okay now? Okay.
Yeah, I just needed something to drink. So luckily there's something at hand. Varietal content on this guy, 100% Syrah.
Mm.
It is from Edna Valley in California.
I don't know where Edna Valley is.
Good point. Exactly.
Okay.
A lot of people would say that, and that's valid, right?
Okay.
We're going to talk about where Edna Valley is.
All right. Is there an Edith Valley, like Edna and Edith?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
They're just fragrant, right?
It really is. It's very smoky.
Smoky and flowers at the same time. It's one of those aspects about Syrah that I always love. It's a nice smoky one.
So, and Syrah is the only place they call it Shiraz, Australia?
They call it Shiraz in South Africa now. They're beginning to adopt it there.
Okay.
But that's pretty much it.
Okay.
But you're right. Syrah, Shiraz, same thing. That is something we would be covering in a few minutes. But no, this is because you're on it. That's fine. Yes, it's same grape, different name, Syrah, Shiraz. Alcohol content on this guy, 14.4%. Aging potential, right? So I kind of always go in. Does it have the alcohol, tannins, and some freshness? So some acid that could hang out for a little while, right?
I think it has all three.
It has all three. Yeah, definitely. So an easy 10 plus years.
Okay.
Easy 10 plus years.
What vintage are we?
Good question. That's another interesting thing about this wine.
Okay.
You're all over it tonight.
I
It's
am,
almost like you
yes.
practice.
We did
And
not.
yeah, we don't. 2013.
Oh, really?
And that is the current vintage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
They hold
we
them back.
already
They
have the
know.
9 years. Okay.
Right. They know what they're dealing with on
Yeah.
their wines. Right. So it is 100% French oak aged. 25% of it is new oak, so they're a little more aggressive, getting a little more going on. But it's French oak, not American oak, so you're going to get less vanilla overpowering the situation and more spice. And it is barrel aged for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then they hold it back So they're dealing with some immensely powerful grapes
Mhm.
at the start.
Yeah, that's, I think, the longest that of any of the ones we've covered.
Probably, it's
Mhm.
gotta be right up
Yeah.
there. Yeah. We'll do some Spaniards that are a little older, I think, during this holiday season. It's time. So, 200 barrels production is approximately 600 bottles.
Okay.
Wait, I can't be right. That is totally wrong. I ran those numbers and that's wrong. It's not 3 bottles per barrel.
It's really, really big.
Totally
bottles.
wrong. It's gotta be like 6,000. There's gotta
Yeah,
be
you
like a
probably
zero
want to
off.
zero off.
Ignore what I just said.
I
Get out of
mean,
here.
I usually do, except right now. Right
Right.
now, I try to pay attention. Other
I
than
know.
that.
I ran that number. Somebody must have distracted me on there because that is obviously not the case.
Or your
200
math
barrels.
skills very much slipping.
So,
So only 200 barrels,
right.
some amount of bottles.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a
More
large
than
production.
600.
It is not a large. I guess try and run it in my head real quick, but I'm just not going to go there anymore. Don't trust myself. But anyway, 200 barrel production is a very small production.
Mhm.
And this is the largest of what they produce in this little wine right here, or this little,
Mhm.
wine project, you might say. Anyway, all right. So now that we've kind of done the quick rundown,
Mhm.
let's go over the aromas and flavors that everyone else is getting. All right. I've talked about floral, peppery, spicy. That's kind of runs in the, in the gambit with smoky.
Mhm.
All of that runs with Syrah. Mm. Mm.
So,
Beautiful tannins.
yeah, and like a New World thing is the bouquet matches the taste. Like I
Yeah.
feel like I'm smelling and then I'm tasting what I'm smelling.
Right. And that is not a rule, but it
Mhm.
is most common.
Mhm.
Right. So yes. So it is, it's a good thing to think about every single time,
Yeah.
right? If you were blind tasting this, oh, does it match? Most likely New World. And you're totally right about that. So it's got nice acid on here. Think about it, this is a 2013. It could have more time.
Right. I was actually shocked that it was the 2013. I
Right.
thought you were going to say much newer, like
Yeah, like
19 or
18, 19,
Mhm.
right? Yeah, no, this is ready to drink now, but it's kind of just ready.
Right. So I'm thinking it would have been too wound up in 2013, 14, 15. Yeah.
Yeah. A really nice intensity
Mhm.
of the color.
Mhm.
Even though, but like, because it almost looks like a Shiraz, but it retains more acid than most Shiraz. And a little lower alcohol, not much, but
Same grape.
same grape,
Mhm.
Australian grown, even much warmer environment.
Okay.
So we'll
right,
talk
right.
about
Okay.
the variation within what you can get with Syrah when we get into the grape in a little bit, because
Okay.
that is an important part of this grape. Because you can almost choose which version of Shiraz or Syrah is my favorite,
Okay.
right? So, all right. So, what'd you say? One of the things too is you can get a little black olive or coffee.
Mhm.
Or tobacco. I think more tobacco than
I
coffee.
was just gonna say, I'm getting more tobacco.
And Shiraz, I tend to get a little more coffee.
Okay.
Right. So a little more tobacco. These things. So we've got acid.
Mhm.
We've got some nice tannin. We got a lot of color. So it's an interesting combination of aspects. We got nice fruit.
Mhm.
But that acid shows me. So if the fruit level in this says New World to me, the high acid says Old World to me, or
Okay.
cool growth.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking, I would be going into this just, I'd be saying, oh, these would be the conflicting pieces. Is it has a lot that says to me, France,
Okay.
but the fruit is a little more prominent
Mhm.
compared to the other, or
Mhm.
is more prominent than
Right.
it would be in France.
Okay.
So then I would lean New World, but say this is a confusing one.
Okay.
So, and that is actually the point of the winemaker is it's kind of New World fruit with a very old world French styling.
Okay.
So this is not one that you would generally get tested on,
Mhm.
and because it just wouldn't be fair.
It's too
It's
confusing.
too confusing. All right. So, let's,
No, I have a question.
okay.
So if you, because I think we've talked about that kind of thing before, or blending of New World and Old World.
Mhm.
But I feel like every time we hear that somebody is doing that, it's in the New World. Like, I don't feel like I've heard of, like, when we're in France, that they're using any New World techniques, or in Italy.
Mhm.
So I feel like you had New World and Old World. They overlap a little bit, but only in the New World. Or
I
maybe
get
it's
why you
just
would,
what we're covering.
it's what we've covered.
Okay,
It does work the other way,
okay.
but, and probably projecting here, but, when that happens, and it does happen, France, I've had it in Italy, you know, that,
Okay.
where there's like, oh, we made this in Spain for that matter. We made this in American styling, or we made it a New World styling.
They
Which
make
means,
it to ship.
yeah, they make it a little more fruit forward. It's really not for them to say, oh, we're enjoying this. It's for them to say, hey, this will sell. You guys will drink
Oh,
this.
the Americans are probably
Right.
like this.
So it's kind of this flip-flopped point of view, right? So when Americans do it, and we say, oh, and we have kind of an old world styling in our with our New World grapes, that's in a steam builder, right? That's,
Right.
oh, well, hello, sir, you know, kind of a thing. Whereas over there, they're like, we brought it down, we made it juicy for you. You're welcome, Americans, kind of attitude.
Okay.
Not that they really mean it that way.
Mhm.
Like, a lot of them just saying, look, here is a legitimate style. I'm going to make it this way.
Mhm.
It is well received. Good. You're welcome. You know, that's great. So you know, there could be some where they're like, oh, like, I don't want to call it dumbing down their wine,
Mhm.
but maybe some feel that way. But I know for a fact that there are several others that make an American, more American friendly style of their wine
Mhm.
on purpose, and they're not dumbing it down. They don't mean to be patronizing.
Mhm.
They're making it because they know it's a legitimate style. It's another way to go, and they have fun with it, and they drink it themselves. And, you know,
Okay.
it's different from their traditional old world. But so it's not really, you know, but it does happen,
Okay.
but not, I don't think, as common.
Right.
Because when you are in the New World and you make something in an Old World styling, it's almost universally considered an upgrade.
Oh, true,
Yeah.
true.
Whereas you might get a mixed review, which is that overly long description that I just gave, a mixed review if you're an Old World producer making a New World style.
Sure.
Hmm.
So before we move on, though, does anybody have anything they're smelling, tasting? What are you eating with it?
In the taste, I think I get a little bit of like blueberry. And I do get some black olive, and I think tobacco. I don't really get a lot of coffee on the taste,
Hmm.
but smelling it, I think there's like a little bit of that like kind of scent to it. We made a like mushroom and beef bacon pasta, where it's just like a ton of porcini mushrooms and you know, simmering that with some bacon, tomatoes, stuff like that. So very, very like earthy and flavorful, which I think works really well with
Oh,
this.
yeah,
Mhm.
that sounds great.
Yeah.
Like savory, umami type
Yeah.
flavors,
Yeah.
whichever way you get them, it's going to really pair with this incredibly well. And that's saying this is a food wine, so it's made to be friendly to drink,
Mhm.
but it really shines with food pairings.
Okay.
This is very much a food pairing wine. So
We did charcuterie and you know, all of us were saying that the big thing that we're picking up on is the earth. Very, very earthy
nice.
and
Mm.
and pepper and the peppers.
Mm.
Mm. Very, yeah, I like that.
Mhm.
Tempted me with the peppers. Mm.
Ready?
Yes, fantastic. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
All right, so let's
Talk
go
about the label.
to the label. All right, so Edna, I hardly knew her. All right, Edna Valley, right? That is one of the interesting things on the label. So we look at it, no limit, Syrah 2013. That would pique my interest if I'm walking around a wine store, right? Because that's, you know, there's some age on this bottle. Edna Valley. All right, where is Edna? And then so the Sawyer Lundquist Vineyard.
Okay.
So that is, so you see on here a location, so
Mhm.
not just California, within California, and a vineyard stipulated.
Yeah, that would make me feel fairly confident.
All good points to make you
Mhm.
feel confident when you know nothing else, right? So you get on the back, No Limit Edna Valley, got the ABV, produced and bottled by No Limit Wines. So they produced it themselves and bottled it.
Mhm.
Great. Most likely, so it doesn't say estate, but
Right.
there is an estate, so it's most
Right.
likely sourced from a single estate.
Okay,
All right, contains sulfites and everything else is, pretty much nice, but it gives me a lot to work with. Where if I like Syrah,
mhm,
I'm thinking, all right, this is gonna be pretty cool stuff, right?
Right.
So it gives me a lot of faith in there.
mhm.
I am a sucker for a wax top. It immediately speaks to me of quality. And, it's not necessarily so, but for me, I'm a sucker for a wax top, which brings us to every
This is
time.
optics.
It is. Well, it's optics and something else. So let's stop
Okay.
here for a minute.
Okay,
Because I'm gonna dig into the thing that I talk about with wax tops and we
Okay.
can talk about.
Right.
It's optics,
Mhm.
which makes it look fancier and like it should age longer.
sure.
It actually is on there because this needs to hang out for a while,
Okay.
right? So the wax slows down the aging process and helps it to mellow over time. And will preserve it a little stronger for laying it down 20 years,
Okay.
that kind of a thing.
Okay.
Because it'll age slower
Mhm.
during that time. So that's all the aging side of the wax top. The other side of the wax top is how do you open, it, right? So I'm always going to repeat this in case somebody ever is in here that hasn't heard me say it.
Wait, I think I remember. You
Okay,
just pretend it's not there, right? You
Yep.
just go through it and pretend it's not there.
exactly
Okay,
right.
all right.
You take a traditional corkscrew, pretend the wax is not there, do not chip it away, you'll drive yourself nuts. You go right down through it and it'll crack and pop right through and it works great. So frankly, you don't even have to take the foil off because you're ignoring the wax takes the place of the foil.
Mhm.
It's easier to open a wax top than a
Oh,
regular
right.
when you think about it.
Sure.
And people think about it as very onerous.
Mm.
All right. So let's dig in to the spiel. Here we have Syrah, also known as Shiraz, origin in southeastern France, a cross between two obscure grapes, Dorésia and Mandouce Blanche. So here's another example of a red and a white grape making an intense red.
Right.
So like most famously,
Cabernet Sauvignon.
yes, yep.
I
Mhm.
really hate it when you do that.
Cabernet Franc and Sauvignon Blanc.
Right. Well, I could have gotten there, but
Well, I already did it once. I was done.
okay, thank you.
No, see, I was-
I do appreciate that.
All right, thick-skinned, medium tannin, medium acidity, intense flavor and colors come through on these guys. Syrah likes a long growing season with no late rains to dilute flavor. They really want some time to get there. Can have significant variation in flavors depending on if you grow it warm or grow it cool, right? So growing
that's
it
what we
warm,
hinted at
that's
in
what
the-
we hinted at, right? Shiraz is kind of the quintessential version
Mhm.
of a warm growth Syrah,
Okay.
right? So big alcohol, big flavor, big color, coffee, richness, and it can have some tannins kind of come and go in the warm growth ones.
Okay.
Depends on where you grow it. If you got wind, you'll still get some tannins to thicken those skins.
Mhm.
Tannins come from thicker skins, right?
Okay.
It's an intense grape, whether it gets those thickened skins or not. All right, so cooler growth, what's going on there? Cooler growth, higher acid. It can be very high acid. And in fact, you can get some Syrah from the Northern Rhone, which is the valley in the southeast of France,
Mhm.
where the wind is blowing all the time, but it's barely able to ripen. They're very tart. They don't get much color. They almost look like Pinot Noir,
Oh,
but they
really?
have high tannin because the wind
So
thickened the
bizarre.
skin,
Yeah,
but the sun didn't, and the ripeness didn't get there to really bring out the color.
okay.
So it has a ton of variations.
Mhm.
So Syrah is literally a grape that you can explore significant differences in color, texture, and flavor,
Mhm.
staying within the same grape. So when
Yeah.
you explore Syrah from around the world, you'll get a lot of different,
It's all climate,
yes,
yeah.
climate and soil.
And-
Mm.
But you really didn't mention the soil.
I did
She
mention
mentioned
the
the weather
soil.
conditions and the temperature, but.
And those are more important for
Okay.
those aspects. The
Okay.
soil will have its own, if it's volcanic soil, which we have some here tonight, you're going to get a little more graphite and earthiness coming through.
Okay.
If you're down in Australia with the clay,
Mhm.
you get a different kind of it's almost hard to find it underneath
Mhm.
all that fruitiness from the
Okay.
ripeness, but it's there with almost a red clay kind of quality. It is good at, it's not the king of expressing terroir
Mhm.
of soil,
Mhm.
to me, is Pinot Noir,
Right,
but it's, it's in there. It,
Okay.
it covers it. So.
next.
Next one, please. All right, so southeastern France, where I keep throwing out these names. So it's from the Rhone going into the mountainous region on the southeastern edge of France. So this is where it originated.
Okay.
This is where it is dominantly grown in France, right? We have the northern Rhone Valley and the southern. It's a blending grape here.
Mhm.
Often the dominant one, but it spends a lot of time balancing out with Grenache
Okay.
or Grenache,
Mhm.
right? Up here, it gets to live on its own. Up here, its most famous area in the northern Rhone is Hermitage. But Côte Rôtie is the northernmost tip. And that styling is what this is styled after
Okay.
for the French side of its influence. Syrah flavors, blueberry, which was called out earlier, by the way, Chris, black plum, milk chocolate. I wouldn't say we'd go milk chocolate here. It's not that rich. It's more tobacco, baker's chocolate. We've got some pepper. I'd go black pepper tonight,
Yeah.
and smokiness. Dryness, absolutely. Full bodied, yes. Even though I would go medium high on this guy, as dark as it is.
Oh, medium high for the tannins
Mm-mm.
or for the body. Okay.
Yeah. It's a full bodied wine though. It is. It's full bodied. I mean, I've had heavier,
Mhm.
but tannins, medium to high. I would go medium plus. Yeah, medium high. Acidity, medium plus acidity. Yep, that's about right there. And the ABVs on the upper end at a little over 14. So they all line up in there. Next one, please. All right, so we're talking about, this is an intense skin on the grape, but there is an interesting, this is a pretty balanced grape, right? Because you're tasting all this acidity
Mhm.
in this grape. Now, it can go beyond, so it will if you ripen it the way they do in Australia and maybe South Africa. That intermediate zone, the acid will reduce and turn into ripe sugars, which will turn into the alcohol. So you get a higher alcohol, fruitier wine, but you still get all kinds of secondary character.
Yeah.
And even in those wines, so it's got an amazing character-driven skin and peripheral zone in there. They give a ton of different flavors. So it can be a little more balanced in cooler growth. In warmer growth, it will go ahead and give up that, that acid and turn it all into ABV for you, baby. All right, so where in the world are we?
Yeah, where's that in the valley?
All right, so we're in the United States. We are in California. So we're right here in about the middle of the growing latitude. And we're actually right about the middle here.
Okay.
So Central Coast.
Mhm.
It'd be nice if I went the right way.
Just click.
Yeah, right. So Central Coast, we are down here in the Central Coast. So Central Coast, California
Mhm.
starts just south of San Fran and ends just north of Santa Barbara. Yeah, there it is, right here. So this area, the green, that is all.
A very large region.
It's a very large region. Central Coast is a large region. And here's the thing, it has 40 sub AVAs, American Viticultural Area, right?
Mhm.
So it's there's a lot of variation. It's almost like, how did you guys get Central Coast as an well, they don't use it often. They usually break it into one of the 40 sub AVAs for
Mhm.
that reason. It's generally considered more of a wine region than an AVA. And that's probably more accurate. All right, so here we are. San Luis Obispo. Edna Valley is at the northern tip here, next to San Luis Obispo.
Okay.
All right, so right in the center of the state, San Luis Obispo, where we looked at one point in time.
Yep.
So wide variety of soils and climates. Edna Valley was granted its AVA status in 1982. Soil is a combination of high calcium marine fossils. And this is kind of cool, volcanic rock and ash. So you're thinking, okay, it was a sea, then it was thrust up, and then a volcano blew up on top of it. No, it was a sea, and it had
Like underwater volcanoes?
underwater volcanoes.
Okay.
I want to be like submaritime, I'm like, it's underwater.
Yeah.
Underwater volcanoes with it, which
Okay.
covered it up, and then it was thrust up.
Okay.
So they all came up together.
Mhm.
So it's a combination of the calcium from all the old, sea creatures, and the ash and the volcanic rock that was created from the underwater volcanoes. So it's got the two things. So it's got high minerality, both from calcium, but also from things with granite and, all these darker materials as well, which factor into what happens there. It is a strongly influenced maritime environment. So the breezes and the fogs from the Pacific really do get into here. Here it is. And they affect it a lot. So it cools down very quickly at night, where you end up with mountainous breezes. But the mountainous breezes blow off the wetness from the fog. And most of the fog rolls in the morning. So you've got moisture all over. So you've got not rain, but you have this nice light amount of moisture.
Right.
And the sun burns it off and gives it a lot of ripening. And then at the end of the night, the breezes come down from the mountains and cool it right off very quickly. This has the longest growing season in all of California.
Oh, wow.
So when you have something, remember I said Syrah likes a long time to ripen.
Right.
So it has a steady, slow ripening period extended. And so it's able to build slowly up to its sugars while gaining a lot of character and retaining acidity.
Wow.
It's kind of an amazing location for things like Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and Syrah. All right. Yep. Let's go to the next one, please. So there's a little closer area. Look at Edna Valley. It's really not far from the Pacific Ocean at all.
It isn't at all. We've never talked about this area before. Well, Edna Valley specifically.
Right.
Mhm.
Now, a lot of the San Luis Obispo stuff is a little further inland.
Okay.
So this is very coastal.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Next.
Yes. All right. So here's a look at the valley,
It's gorgeous.
right? Not
Yeah.
so bad. And look at all that land that's left to turn into grape farm. Jump in there. I'm sure it's cheap.
I'm sure
The next one, please.
we'll all go in together, just live in a commune out there.
Sure.
Mhm.
That always goes.
Nothing ever.
I just
goes
love the
wrong.
drama of that central little,
Mhm.
I don't know if they would call it a mountain. As Floridians, we certainly would.
I'm sure they do not,
Yeah.
because they have the Rockies, next
Right.
to them, but yeah.
They're like, that's a hill,
Yeah, it's a great shot though.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yep. All right, so No Limit Winery, a project of Sawyer Lindquist, which we saw on the label,
Mhm.
winemakers, right? Sawyer Lindquist winemaking family, started by Louisa Sawyer and
Mhm.
Bob Lindquist. They actually have several different brands underneath their umbrella. They work exclusively in the Central Coast of California, and Bob's leaning has always been toward Rhone red grapes. It's not all he works with, but he loves, that's his special love. So there's a club of winemakers called the Rhone Rangers,
Mhm.
and he's one of the founding members of
Yeah,
that group,
awesome.
right? So Rhone Reds, right? What are the dominant ones? Syrah, Grenache, and Mourvedre.
Okay.
And you guys have heard me say, I love Mourvedre, right? I also love Syrah. So should we read the comment? I see a.
Yep. So, it looks like Robin said she's been to, San Luis Obispo before she was 21.
Oh,
And they said, no wonder they like that wine because it's so close to Paso Robles and they love wines from there.
very nice. Yeah, Paso's great.
Yeah. And it looks like Consuelo figured out how many wine bottles
Oh,
per barrel,
about 212. Okay.
12 per barrel. So
Fantastic.
then would
So-
that be 40,000 bottles? Right?
So 200
'Cause you
times
said-
200.
Well, I mean, basically 200 times
Yeah.
200.
Right.
Mhm.
There we go.
All right. So a little bit more than 600.
A little more than 600.
Just a smidge.
I hate it when I get
So
distracted
you
at
just
work.
needed to take out your Sharpie and write on
Right.
it, and then it would have been fine.
Yes, that's right. It would have been fine. You know what? In my defense, I was writing this today and it's been a busy, very busy day at the store, which is good to say, but
No,
it's
that's,
been a busy day.
it's great. We figure we're
So.
gonna have a hurricane party at the store for the next couple days since no one's at work. You're at work.
I know where.
I'm off from work.
right.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay.
So, by the way, so Bob obviously shared his love of these grapes with his son Ethan. Ethan is on the right.
Okay.
Ethan is who makes this wine,
Okay.
right? So this is a separate wine project, but it's made at that winery.
Okay.
So you can't go visit the No Limit Winery because it's at the Lundquist Winery,
Okay.
right?
Because it's a
Or
project at the Lundquist Winery.
right.
Okay.
So it's anyway. So yeah, that's how. So you can't go see it, but you know, hey, it's being done at this winery that makes amazing wines. This is a separate project. Ethan actually has several projects that he works on his own. So they're very much in the family. So even though this is a project and you're looking at it like, okay, how does this piece together? It's still very much a family
Mhm.
business and a family winery and, you know, small production. This is all biodynamic, organic, sustainable. So they really care about every single thing that they're working with.
So they have the organic certification and,
Well, the Lundquist,
or they grow it organic.
the Lundquist ones do.
Mhm.
This guy is Demeter certified biodynamic.
Okay.
So I didn't see the other certifications on there, so it gets a little blurry for me,
Okay.
depending on where they're sourced,
Alright.
because there's several brands all
Oh,
going in
sure,
there.
sure.
But I know for a fact that this one is listed as Demeter certified biodynamic.
Okay.
Right.
What is biodynamic?
So biodynamic is kind of complex, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, very delicate, give back to the earth growing practices, but it's also things like they pick the grapes on a certain full moon and things like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like they will take a bull's horn and fill it with manure and bury
This
it at
is
the
all
beginning
bunch
of the.
Yes, that you're telling me right now.
No, seriously.
Oh,
No,
okay.
this is real.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it's
I thought
it's
you were
based on,
making stuff
no,
up.
it's based on ancient practices.
Okay, all right.
And no, they really do, like, they'll fill a bull's horn with manure and they bury it before the sprouting of the grapes, and then
Okay.
they dig it up at the end of the season. There's a lot of different kind of esoteric things that are involved, but the most important thing is treating the earth wonderfully and, you know, so. Yeah, I mean, I could memorize all of them at some point, but it's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Mhm.
Ready?
Yes, all right, so Ethan, No Limits exclusively, so No Limits does red, for their red wines, it's also raw. They
Okay.
do have a rosé that is all Southern Rhone grapes.
Mhm.
So it's all Southern Rhone stuff like Bob liked, right, with what Ethan's working with here.
Mhm.
But they're really known for their Syrahs.
Okay.
All grapes, and actually, so they're hand harvested, they bring them
Do
in,
you stomp their grapes?
they actually stomp their grapes.
Oh my
They're-
gosh.
These grapes are crushed by foot. It's called pigeage. is
Okay.
the wine.
See, that's why you didn't tell us until we were like several slides and glasses in.
Right, exactly. There you go. Yeah, so now, I don't know if you have before, but you have now had a wine from stomped grapes.
No, that's cool. I didn't know any place did that still, because whenever I think of stomped grapes, I think of I Love Lucy.
Mhm,
Mhm.
exactly. So there we go. That is our story.
That's really cool. Okay,
I think it's,
so is that part of the biodynamic part of it too? I'm just thinking, because it's very like back to,
yeah, I don't think that's a necessity
Okay.
because I think that the biodynamic part all applies to what's happening in the vineyard.
oh, okay,
So,
all right.
so, and that's just, so, yeah, they're hanging out, making wine, as one does. It's a pretty cool way to make a living to me.
No, that is very cool.
Of course, I'm gonna tell you, if you talk to them, they'll say, yeah, it seems really cool. It's a lot of work. I
Because
know a couple of
that's
winemakers.
what you say to me, because I say I don't get to drink all day at my job.
Yes,
Mhm.
you don't know.
I mean, I could be drinking all day at my job, but then I'd be fired, so
That's probably not a good choice.
it would be a very small amount of time, and
Right.
then that would be done.
Anyway.
Ready?
Yep, well, this, we're going in this, so
Okay,
we
so
can stop the share.
Mhm.
I've let you guys know the whole story behind it. Any additional thoughts, questions that have come up?
Nothing specific, but other than like Robin and I just keep going, like, it's insane how much we really like this wine. It's funny because based on just the label
Mm.
and the no limit stuff like this, I would be like, oh, this is going to be a big California, a big old dumb wine, and I would probably pass on it.
Right.
But it's kind of terrific. I honestly think the label reminds me of like a beer, like a beer can or beer label or something else like that. That's just like, oh yeah, no limit brewery. Here's a Jack with a sunglasses on and stuff like that. But this is really great. I really like this. Yeah, like you said, it's a great food blend, but I think it's a great, just you can just kind of drink it and it's very, very flavorful.
I agree. It hits both. I mean,
Mhm.
they talk a lot about it, and it does. I think it really shines when combined with food,
Mhm.
but you can totally drink this wine. It's delicious.
It does taste totally different after I have been eating last 10 20 minutes and I'm like, oh, this is great. I get different things out of it. It's really, really nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very much enjoying it.
Good, good. I'm glad you are. Well, and I read, so one of their comments on their website is like serious wine for people that don't take themselves too seriously. And I think because I mean, he's modeling his wine production after Cote Routy. I mean, this is not
Mhm.
cheap wine, right?
Right.
It's a very elegant area.
Mhm.
And I see it in here, but it's like that plus the hit of the American
Right.
fruit. I think it's just, I love this wine. I think it's great. But
I hadn't thought about that with the label before Chris said it though, but I agree. And I really enjoy the label, but I would have maybe expected something different and not so much of a blend of that old and new world, that it would have been more like I wouldn't call it a big dumb wine because I really, really like this one, but the really big Aussie wine that we had.
That was the one I was gonna bring up too.
Really?
It was, yeah, it was.
I can't remember the name of it now.
I want to say it was called the Ball Buster.
Yes, because I
Okay, like I was
was
like,
a big
I'm not-
ass wine.
Tate.
Tate the Ball Buster.
Yeah.
Yes.
It reminds me of a Tate wine, which we also really liked for
Mhm.
what they were, but we not for what they were. Like we like them straight up. But it definitely reminds me of that.
Yeah.
But again, it has like kind of a goofy wine label and stuff like that, which again I really like. But you don't immediately jump to like, actually, this is a really nuanced special wine. It's definitely like one of those like, don't judge the wine by the cover. But I think, Jeff, that's why it's really important. Like you always say, like, does it list where it's from? Does it list the valley? Does it list the grapes? Because if it lists those things, then you probably know they have like confidence in what they're making, as opposed to just if it said like red wine California, I'd be like, What does that mean?
Right,
Right, well, and that was my point with the wine last week, right?
Mhm.
Where you look at it and you might be like,
right.
but there was more to it, but you had to know
You
that
had
there
to
was
know
more
that.
to it.
Mhm.
Like, oh, wait a minute, this is one of the winemakers, for Screaming Eagle wanted to make something that he could share with the public. And I'm like,
Right.
wow, that's a different, thing.
Right. I think the thing is for something like that, you either have to do your homework ahead of time,
Mhm.
you know, take the time to look it up while you're in a store or get expert advice. Whereas with this one, because it does give you
Right.
all of those things, you can make a decision on your own.
Exactly. You're like, hey,
Mhm.
I want to know what Edna Valley has to offer.
Right,
I like Syrah. Well, here's the winemaker.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, they're getting specific enough that I will taste what they're creating and I can judge, what's going on there.
okay, so
So-
next time I go out of town, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to a wine shop.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna look around and I'm gonna find something that I think, okay. I think this has all of these things, and then I'm gonna take a picture and send it to you. Instead of what I do is I just take a picture of all of them and
Yeah.
send it to you, but I'll send it to you and say, okay, this is what I picked.
Mhm.
Let me know.
Yeah,
whether it- Yeah,
That sounds great. I'm
Yeah.
glad that you're getting that level of confidence where you're just like, hey, I want to.
I'm gonna still have the double check before
That's
I
fine.
actually purchase.
But
it,
that's
right?
still a step up. So,
It is. Oh, there we go. Andre Mac also has fun wine labels that are actually super helpful and obviously good wine.
right,
Yeah.
there you go.
Mhm. Yeah.
And he's a negotiant, right? So
Mhm.
he's, which
True.
by the way, they're buying these grapes too. So for the most part, certainly, even if it's within the family,
Mhm.
like, anyway, they're bringing those in. So anyway, all right,
Okay.
I
So
like it.
let's go through the ratings.
Let's go. So this guy has nothing to guide you,
Right, so you just have to do it on your own.
right? James Suckling said it was really something to drink. I will tell you that. He sent out a tweet. He was very impressed.
Okay,
He said New World meets Cobra Tea, which is exactly what they were going for.
but they did
And he
not.
said, seek
pay
this
him,
wine
so-
out, but they didn't pay him, so there was
So
no
you didn't
rating.
give a number.
Mhm.
Yep,
So, all right, given that.
that's what I should tell my kids. If you want a grade, I'm gonna have to have some Venmo.
And Myra wasn't able to make it tonight, but she told me what her rating was.
Oh, okay.
So I will
Alright.
share her rating later on.
And Julie wasn't able to come because she's stuck in Colorado.
She's stuck in Colorado.
So-
Linda's got something. We have, the fall can
The-
get busy and
so
especially with the hurricane.
All of you can just send them things in the chat and say, ha
Mhm.
ha. Poor
Exactly.
Julie, don't send that to Julie. Poor thing, she's stuck.
I have some fun news about these wines too, after we go through all this. So.
Okay, so you want to explain?
All right, so wine scores. You guys hear me say this all the time. Outstanding wine, 90 plus, tends to be utilized for a very good wine, and I'm happy with it. Like, it says outstanding, and that's fine if that's what you want to do, like just quantify it, right? If you're like, because honestly, if you were to say this wine is a very good wine and give it an 85, that should be a very good rating.
It
But
should
in
be,
the
yes.
market, that would be considered a failing number. You would be, an 85 would be something people would hide and it would almost be shameful. So it seems silly that these things are skewed in that way, but it is what it is, right? So you start out, did I enjoy this wine? Did I enjoy it for the price? Did I enjoy it for where it's from and what it is? Because also divorcing yourself, if you're a Chardonnay drinker and you don't like Syrah, all right, you say, but was it a good Syrah, right? You know,
Right.
instead of saying, I don't like Syrah 50, that wouldn't be fair to the Syrah, right?
Right.
You could be drinking the best Syrah in the world and give it a 50. That makes no sense.
Right.
So,
Okay,
keeping those things in mind.
so let's see. We have 93 from both of them, 93 to 94 from 3 of them. John nodded off.
Must have been that good.
That has happened to him before. Yeah, and I was gonna go 93 plus.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
so
right.
absolutely.
I,
I very much enjoyed it. I am looking forward to having it with some, thank you, to having it with some food. too,
yeah, right.
Because you said it was even better with food and they,
It is.
yeah, Chris and Robin said they really enjoyed
It'll really
the difference
make it.
in the food too.
Mhm.
Okay, should I?
And the nice thing is, because one of the things with food pairings is you can even go with Syrah because it's not so crazy heavy,
Mhm.
right? You've got the nice acid. You've got a much broader array of options
Okay,
for the food that you can pair with. From pork to You could almost go like orange glazed duck on this guy.
Oh,
You know,
okay,
like,
sure.
you know, so you can go with some of the lighter ones. It doesn't have
Right.
to be such heaviness. But you can go with the heavy ones too. It's a very versatile grape.
Okay,
So I agree. I give this guy an easy 93, right? Just clues, right? 93, boom. And Myra says 100.
100.
100. She's been buying this wine for weeks. And she's like, just tell everyone I said 100. It's the best. So Myra is in love with this wine.
Okay, yeah, no, that's awesome.
Hmm.
That should be interesting when I'm gonna try and go back and average so that we have
Hmm.
like scores that we can put by some of the wines.
Right.
So
The TPP,
extremes kind of, yeah,
Tipple's tasting, TTP, Tipple's tasting panel, the
okay.
TTP,
I think you got confused by OPP.
Yeah.
All right,
which is a wine from Andre Mack. Boom, brought it back.
sure.
All
Okay. Next,
Yes.
okay.
All right. Thank you to winefolly750.com, Wikipedia, wine.com, the History Project of San Luis Obispo, which by the way was like 4 or 5 different slides.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, amazing what they have going on in there. And the Benson Marketing Group was a beautiful picture. So,
Yep.
all
Sorry.
right. Well, we're here. Let's do
Okay.
it. Next week, what are we going to drink? We're going to pop open another dark, inky beast.
Hence the name opaque.
Opaque, right? The opaque Petit Verdot, only our second Petit Verdot ever.
Mhm.
The first one was from South America because it's difficult to find them. And this is from Paso Robles. Somebody said they like Paso wine. Paso having also this wonderful thing where they have a ton of different temperatures and soil types in there. They can make amazing and have a huge variety of wines. What an amazing place to visit when you go out there, because you can drink something for everyone.
Yeah,
And they have taken this, which, you know, one of my other favorite things is taking something that is normally a blending grape, pulling it out and letting us drink it.
right.
So we can see how awesome it is. So food
Oh,
pairings with
Chris
it.
and Robin love Petit Verdot. I've got them. Mhm.
I am right there with you. You know what, like, I know I have recommendations right here, but if you were to boil down food recommendations for Petit Verdot, almost anything, you can just say, look, don't take savory, umami, and marry it with spicy,
Mhm.
and you've got your food
Okay,
for Petit Verdot.
yeah.
So pork adobo
Mhm.
is actually kind of like a sweet and sour, little spicy
Okay.
kick in the pork.
Mongolian beef.
Mongolian beef.
Yeah, fantastic.
Barbecue bacon cheeseburger, smoked cheeses, and risotto with shiitake mushrooms, leeks, and truffles,
Sounds fantastic.
which I really hope you'll
I'm
make.
just like laughing at the cheeseburger because whenever Jeff can throw in a cheeseburger,
It has been
it's
a year.
literally his favorite.
I looked it
favorite
up.
food.
It's been a year.
Since you put cheeseburger?
Yes.
Not since you put like bacon blue cheeseburger on
Yes.
something. It has not been a year.
Yes.
Who believes that? Nobody believes it's been a year. See? Yeah, lies, lies.
It's a very good pairing.
Okay,
All right.
all right, I'll stop the share. I am looking forward to it, but I'm gonna go back and last week. It has to be like
Keep smelling this.
3-4 weeks ago, you had.
No,
bacon
no,
blue
I
cheese.
absolutely, I have been
was not
avoiding it.
Here, no one believes that.
Are you gonna do the work to prove me wrong?
I mean, I could,
And
and then I'm gonna send it out to everybody. I'm gonna blow it up.
you can't
Put a
because,
sign in Tipples.
all right, so if you like this wine, if you like my wine, anyway, if you like this wine and you also like the fact that this thing has more time on it, I have talked to my distributor and I can get, and I'm going to get, so let's face it, a case of 2010
Oh,
is coming down from New York. So they're in multiple states and they can
Mhm.
transfer down. I'm
Mhm.
getting a case of 2010. In addition, the No Limit has a big sister or big brother. I don't care which, whichever way you want to go now. But it's called the Nut. No Limit, the Nut.
okay.
That one is, I know. So I'm looking at the Smith Style Robinson.
No, you can send comments for after.
Right,
this.
so but it's called the Nut, it is the big sibling. And that is coming in 2 different vintages as well.
Okay,
So amazing wines, they are coming in. We shall enjoy
no,
them.
that sounds great. We
Yes.
need to, we have some empty spaces on the one.
Oh,
and up
do you
there.
want some home?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right,
Yeah.
we'll do it.
Okay,
All right, so thank you guys for joining us. Really one of my favorite wines that I've been able to bring to the group. You know, we don't talk about pricing, but what brought it into where our normal pricing is, this is an expensive wine.
mhm,
But
Yeah.
my distributors really worked with me on this and brought it into, you know, having it be kind of at the upper end of our normal range. So, this is you know, that makes me really happy to be able to drink this.
Yeah. absolutely. It's fantastic.
So,
Ready?
all right.
Thank you all for coming. Cheers.